We're in a farming community and we do have some organic farms here, but there's always drift. It rains glyphosate. Everything is affected by it.
So everyone needs to detox.
Yes, everyone needs to detox from infant to 120. We need to calm the brain first. We need to fix those deficiencies with those amino acids so that everything below the neck gets easier to deal with and to heal. If your brain is still stuck in overdrive, your gut can't heal. And then you're on this hamster wheel.
And let's talk about your story and your health journey.
Yeah, so amino acid therapy literally saved my life.
For women feeling exhausted, anxious, or burned out, what's the first thing that you would want them to understand about their body and their brain chemistry?
Oh, gosh, that's such a good question. So, the biggest thing we can do as women is to guard our sleep, meaning you have to get enough sleep and you have to get the right kind of sleep in order for your body to function well. I mean, we could talk about supplements, we can talk about amino acid therapy and stuff, in this interview, but the biggest thing, if you can't sleep, you can't heal. So you have to guard your sleep. So setting that alarm and not necessarily to get up, but to go to bed because we tend to like after our husband goes to sleep, our kids are in bed, whatever it might be, we stay up, whether it's to do laundry or to scroll or to do all those things, just for that alone time when we really need to be going to bed between 9 and 10 p.m. And then we want to sleep those 7 to 8, maybe 9 hours, depending on what stage of life you're in, what's been going on. We need 7 to 9 hours of sleep a night, basically uninterrupted. And so the best thing you can do is to go, how can I get my sleep better?
Yes, which is exactly what I want to ask you. What would you tell the person who is struggling with their sleep, struggling to get to bed at the same time each night? Maybe they are staring at their phones, or I was actually asked this question yesterday,
Yeah.
is how do you silence all of the distractions that are out there as far as social media and the screens that we're surrounded by at all times and all the noise? How do you silence that? I imagine that that's probably one of the biggest factors why people don't get the proper sleep.
Oh my goodness, so much so, right? Because when we were younger, we didn't have the screen distraction. We didn't have all of that. And it's addicting, right? That's one of the reasons why I do amino acid therapy is to help people with these types of addictions too, not just like alcohol or drugs or those kind of things. Um, but you have to be very, very intentional, Jessica. So like I only have a few notifications on my phone and I turn them all off, like the rest of them. So if I'm working on something or I just launched, I like my new cookbook and so people ask questions or I have something going on, I'll turn on notifications. Otherwise, I don't have them on. So I don't want that distraction. You can set a time limit on your phone and you stick to that time limit. Like you're only allowed 30 minutes on scrolling time a day and stick to it. So we have to be intentional and discipline ourselves for that as well. So otherwise, we're going to get sucked into that doom scrolling and all those other things that we do at night. And you really want to stop, that screen time by like 8 or 9 o'clock. I like to do it, and I recommend all my clients at least an hour before bedtime so that you're not, you're not on that blue screen and that does disrupt your circadian rhythm. So it is a problem in our society as a whole, like all around the world as far as sleep goes. You can get some blue blocker glasses, and I would get the more expensive ones because you do get what you pay for when it comes to those. So that's just something to throw out there, but also just being intentional, like I said, making sure you're going to bed at the same time. And that takes practice. That's a habit that we have to develop and getting up at the same time every day, even if it's Saturday and Sunday. Like it's really, really rare, unless I'm on vacation, that I don't get up at 6 or 6:30, somewhere in between there every single day, and I'm going to bed between 9:30 and 10 every single night, and that's just the habit that I've created, and it just helps your body to function better. It helps your circadian rhythm. So many times we get frustrated, like I've been doing this for 30 days and it hasn't changed. Well, you still takes more time to create that habit. If you've been doing this for 20 years, it's going to take more than 30 days for your body to kind of turn around. And then we can always add in supplementation, and those things to help the body to relax, whether it's specific amino acids or even some melatonin can help. There's lots of other things that we can do to facilitate that new habit for you.
Let's talk about amino acids. What exactly is amino acid therapy, and how does it help with things like anxiety, energy, and mood regulation?
Yeah, so amino acids make up chains of protein. So it's like little pieces of protein that make up a big protein. And when we're talking about amino acid therapy, we could come at it from several different angles, but I work with the brain with amino acids. And so I concentrate on five different areas in the brain. So the first one would be serotonin, second is GABA, then your catecholamines, then your endorphins, and then we balance all of that with glucose regulation. So those five categories were taking very specific amino acids to target very specific neurotransmitters. So serotonin, for example, is our like inner sunshine neurotransmitter. So when you have that, you just feel happy, like your glass is half full instead of half empty, right? And then we have GABA, which is like allows us to take that deep breath and just let it out. So it's our big stress responder so that we're always going to have stress, but the GABA helps us to respond to it appropriately. So you're not having this outer body experience when something stressful happens. You're like, oh, I can respond to this in a way that is right for the situation, not, something that's over dramatic or, over angry or whatever it might be. And then we have our endorphins, which makes us feel yummy and joyful inside. Like we just are like, this feels really, really good. And so when we're low in those, we're usually craving, you know, uh, comfort things, to help us to relax. And then there's the catecholamines, and that helps us to focus and to get stuff done. Right. And so we're not rabbit trailing all over the place. And then glucose regulation is just using the amino acids to balance our glucose levels. Because when our glucose levels go up and down, then our brain chemistry, our amino acids, our neurotransmitters get depleted. So the goal of amino acid therapy is to build up the brain or to build it back if it's been depleted so that we can have less anxiety, less depression, less ADD, less OCD. Because when your brain is balanced, your mood is balanced, your thought process is balanced, and then that helps to calm everything else in your body. So we need to calm the brain first. We need to fix those deficiencies with those amino acids so that everything below the neck gets easier to deal with and to heal.
So the things that you just mentioned, the GABA, the serotonin, endorphins, those are all amino acids.
Those are the neurotransmitters, and there's specific amino acids to go with those neurotransmitters. So, like serotonin is a neurotransmitter, so we would use 5-HTP and or L-tryptophan in therapeutic doses to support that serotonin pathway.
Okay. And are those supplements that you take?
They are supplements, yes.
Okay. So if you're doing amino acid therapy, does that mean that you're getting a specific dosage of these different supplements for what your needs are?
Yes, absolutely. So when you work with me, we do what's called trialing. We determine which amino acids you need for your specific neurotransmitter deficiency. And then we do therapeutic dosing, usually 2 to 4 times a day.
What's the difference between therapeutic dosing and dosing?
So dosing would just be what's on the label. So you have a bottle of L-tryptophan. It says to take one capsule once a day. That's helpful, but most of the time it's not enough for what people need. So their depletion is greater than that. They need more support than that. So some people need 1,000 milligrams 4 times a day. Some people need 3,000 milligrams 3 times a day. It just depends. So we determine that dosage. And most people don't know that with amino acids is that you can go up until you feel an adverse reaction. And that adverse reaction would be maybe you get a headache or you feel a little nauseous or spacey because it's just a piece of protein. It's not going to harm your brain in any way.
Something I do want to bring to light here, and you'll probably agree with me on this, is that not all supplements are created equal. I don't want someone to
Sure.
listen to this and, hear the things that you're saying and go run to Amazon and buy the first bottle they find.
Yeah.
So how do you go about that finding, clean supplement brands? Because they're really not regulated.
Right. So, I mean, I have very specific brands that I use, and I use a website called Full Script, and then I send which amino acids I want people to use off of Full Script. Yeah.
How do amino acids, how do they differ from traditional supplements or medication when it comes to supporting the mental health? I know you talked about the specific parts of the brain,
Yeah.
Yeah, so could you speak more about the differences between those and traditional medications or supplements?
Um, in regards to how they're different from like zinc or magnesium or
Yeah, I mean, I have zinc and B12 and cat's claw, and I think I do have GABA, but I have a variety of different ones. And yeah, so and sometimes it's hard to pinpoint what your needs are for each one and how much of each one. And I know that's part of the work that you do.
yeah, yeah. Our body needs amino acids from head to toe. So whether it's your neurotransmitters, your enzymes, your hormones, everything is made up of amino acids. So we need to build the foundation first. And so amino acids are the foundation because you can't repair if you don't have enough amino acids. So the goal of amino acid therapy, as opposed to other supplementation, is we're in the building process. So you can take saffron, which would be helpful for some anxiety and depression as well, but it's not a building block, right? And so we want to rebuild those neurotransmitters, and then we can add in, the cofactors or the herbals and stuff if we need to support that pathway as well.
Okay, wow. So you don't really even want to look at things like zinc or B12 until you know that you have your amino acids where they need to
I
be.
don't. Yeah, I mean, I use them as support systems. So, like B6 is really helpful in making neurotransmitters. So, I will most of the time combine B6 with the amino acids just to help that pathway. But amino acids come first.
Interesting. Okay. And what are some common signs that women can notice that they are low in some amino acids?
Yeah, great question. So, if you're low in GABA, a lot of times you have that overwhelmed feeling or you can't relax. Everything seems to be a big deal to you. Like every stressor just like sends you over the edge. If you're low in serotonin, that's where the anxiety and the depression, the OCD comes in. Maybe you have afternoon cravings, like evening cravings, and so that's when your cravings hit. Trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep. Those can be specific symptoms of that. Endorphins, if you're low in endorphins, you're craving something for comfort all the time, or you're very sensitive to like emotional criticism or emotional pain, or maybe even your pain response is heightened. So if you stub your toe, you might like it like shoots all over your body, as opposed to if I stub my toe, I'd be like, ooh, my big toe hurts, Like you just have this heightened response to it. That can be that your endorphins are low as well. If you're a person, this is always a funny one. If you're a person who loves to eat creamy food, like with a spoon all the time, and you just love those types of things, chances are you're seeking some endorphin rush there because that just gives us comfort. If your catecholamines are low, that's where the ADD, ADHD, a lot of that comes in, or you just have like this apathetic, you don't give a flying flip about life kind of, you just can't stay focused and you don't get anything done. That would be your catecholamines.
This is fascinating. I'm learning
Hmm.
so much right now. I don't think I know I've never interviewed or talked to someone about this before.
Sure. That's what everybody
How,
says. Hmm.
yeah, this is eye-opening. And I'm thinking of all these different people that, fall in line with some of the things that you're saying. My first question is really like, how does someone know it's this and not that? Like, how do you know that, okay, I need GABA versus maybe there's something else that's missing? Like maybe it is, I don't
Yeah,
know.
so I keep that assessment process pretty darn easy. So I use different forms to make that assessment and I get a good health history. And then if you're working with me, you fill out those forms, we have an appointment, and I send you a sample kit of amino acids. And then we get on Zoom like this and we actually trial them based on the forms that you filled out for me. And when I say trialing, I mean we open up the capsules, put the powder under the tongue, stare at each other awkwardly for a couple minutes, and just wait for the amino acid to do something in your brain. And then in 2 to 5 minutes, we'll know, hey, I felt something with that amino acid or I didn't. And so then we either increase that dose or we move on to a different amino acid depending on your response.
Very neat.
Yes.
How did you get interested in this? Let's talk about your story and your health journey.
Yeah, so amino acid therapy literally saved my life, Jessica. I mean, back in 1996, I went to an outpatient clinic in Mill Valley, California, where they did amino acid therapy. So I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, and I had an eating disorder I've been battling for almost 12 years at that point in time. So I was bulimic, so I was binging and purging multiple times a day.
Mm.
And I tried to get into other eating disorder clinics, and I wasn't suicidal enough. My weight wasn't low enough. Like I didn't fit their parameters. And so I couldn't get the help that I needed. And I had a friend who sent me an article that she got in a random GNC magazine. And the article stated that you're addicted to what you're allergic to. And it was talking about food addiction at that point in time. And I'm like, this is me. I think I'm sensitive to gluten and dairy and all this stuff. So I called out there and they're like, yeah, come on out. So it was an outpatient program. I was out there for 5 days. They tested me for celiac disease, which I definitely had. I was sensitive to dairy and, yeast overgrowth, adrenal issues. And then they did the amino acid assessment on me and my neurotransmitters were just tanked out. And so we started doing amino acid therapy and that just cut my cravings. And so I didn't have this binge and purge cycle anymore. And then, as I went through this whole process with them, the anxiety and the depression lifted, so my body started healing and then my gut started healing. And then I learned how to eat differently. And so that was my first dive into functional nutrition. And it was a deep dive because it literally saved my life. And back in 1996, we didn't really have a lot of gluten-free foods. I didn't really know how to cook that well. I mean, I grew up with a garden and we raised our own meat, but we also ate pot pies and Twinkies. So, we didn't have the cleanest diet in the whole world. But after that, things really changed for me.
I can't imagine.
Yeah.
I found out I had a gluten sensitivity as well, but it
Mm,
didn't get to the point of celiac. And yeah, that's quite a journey. Just
it is.
figuring out what is gluten even. And then you start looking at labels and you learn it's in
It's
everything.
like everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially back then, and things were not labeled well. Things were not labeled well. I mean, because that was 1996, so we're talking how many years ago was that? Like 30 years ago. So it's been a bit.
Mhm.
And I remember just crying in restaurants. Like I just go to the bathroom and cry, like, because I don't know what to order here, or just stand in the
Mhm.
grocery store. I mean, so I really learned how to eat whole food, and we had like cardboard bread, cardboard crackers, because they were so bad, so bad.
Mhm.
So I just learned how to cook all that stuff back then. And I feel really blessed that I did because I didn't gravitate towards all that gluten-free junk food because it just wasn't available.
So what does your diet look like now?
Yeah, so lots of meat. So I eat a lot of protein because you need a lot of amino acids to function. I eat a lot of really healthy fats, vegetables, fruits. I really don't eat much grain. It's really rare. And we'll have a treat now and then. My daughter likes to bake, so we'll do, almond flour, coconut flour, muffins or pancakes or, those kind of things.
Ah, we have the exact same diet.
Yes, yes. So I would say it's paleo-ish, keto-ish. Yeah.
Mhm. You mentioned you eat a lot of meat because of the amino acids. So can we get the amino acids we need from meat?
Ideally, that's the goal. So you don't want to be on supplements forever and ever. They're used as tools, not as staples, is my goal. So I take them, when I feel like I need them. But you should be able to break down your meat really well so that you get enough amino acids in your diet. That means we have to heal your gut so that you can actually break down the meat too.
Okay, so heal the gut before. Is that step one?
No, we do the amino acid therapy first so that
Okay.
the brain is calm enough so that your gut can actually heal. Because if your brain is still stuck in overdrive, your gut can't heal. And then you're on this hamster wheel.
Is that because your body will be in a sort of fight or flight, so then you're not
Correct.
digesting okay.
Mm-hmm.
There was something else in your healing journey that I didn't know if you'd want to share about, but you had a cancer scare?
I did. Yeah, back in 2007, I had a cancer scare. I had a really rare melanoma, and I actually shouldn't be here. So it was a level 4 out of 5, the depth of the melanoma, and it should have been everywhere in my body. And once we did the PET scan, I was completely healed from cancer. So it was amazing. But it did send my paradigm deeper because like I was the healthiest person I knew. So how in the world could I get cancer? Right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so the Lord and I had long talks about that. And I am so grateful that He healed me. But I told him, I said, you either have to provide me a way out of it or you have to radically heal me. And he did both. And so I feel blessed by that. But I did find out that I still had a lot of toxicity in my body that I had never known to really address. I mean, we live in a farming community. You and I were just talking about this before we got on the podcast. I love living here. I've loved raising our kids in this small town, farming community, but it is really toxic. In my generation, we rode the bean bar. And the bean bar was and this was the first time that glyphosate was introduced, and we didn't know anything about it. We just, all of a sudden, we had Roundup Ready corn, we had Roundup Ready beans. And so we're riding the bean bar in our shorts and no shoes and, our tank tops because we're getting a good tan. So when you ride a bean bar back then, it's hooked onto the front of a tractor and you've got a sprayer in your hand and you're riding through the field and you're just squirting the weeds. I know you're looking at me like this is crazy. So, so we're just squirting the weeds and we would squirt each other. You throw a little here or there because we had no
You
idea.
didn't know what was in it.
We didn't know. My grandpa said, Lori, that's really bad stuff. You should always wear long sleeves and long pants. And I'm like, it's fine. But when I went to different practitioners after I had the cancer diagnosis, one of them, he was doing some scans on me. He's like, were you exposed to a lot of glyphosate as a kid?
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, and we live in farm country. It's all, we don't have a lot of organic farms around here, so there's a lot of glyphosate. I always say it rains glyphosate in like June and July when everybody's spraying here. So it's a big deal. So I had a lot of chemical toxicity in my body that needed to be addressed. And that particular kind of cancer, as I've discovered over the years and researched things, is really driven by those types of chemical toxicities.
Mm, okay, so that was long time buried in you. It
Long
kind of,
time buried in me, absolutely. And I had a lot of antibiotics as a kid. And one of those scans, he said to me, he goes, did you have Accutane as a kid? And I didn't tell him I did. And I had 2 rounds of Accutane as a kid. And that was still in my body at age 34.
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
So when people
Okay.
say your body processes and lets go of stuff, it does if it can. And if it
Mhm,
can't, it's going to stay in there. It's kind of like mercury poisoning or aluminum or those heavy metals. They love your nervous system. And if your body also has the other toxins, right, your body is going to get rid of those easier toxins first and it's going to send those heavy metals into your nervous system and it's going to stay there until your body can let go of it. And if you're always toxic, your body's never going to let go. So we
mhm.
have to deal with that toxicity too.
Oh my gosh, yes, yes, because it'll store. This is now I'm recalling things that I've learned years ago. It will store deep in the liver and then,
Oh
or
yeah.
different parts, different organs, and then
Yeah.
until it has a chance, which often with most people, they don't have a chance because
Oh,
a lot of us are living in fight or flight, and you have to first get out of that
you
before your
have to
body
get out. You
can.
have to remove the interference first. Yeah. And
Yeah, and
yeah, that could be your stressors. That's why I like amino acid therapy because it calms the body down. And then you can assess, like, okay, what else is going on in my environment? Because if you're stuck in that overdrive, if you're stuck in sympathetic mode, it's hard to even go, do I have mold in my home? Is there a chemical toxicity exposure? Because you're always so, jazzed up and it's a lot. Let's just be honest, Jessica, it's a lot. 20 years ago, you could give people 3 supplements, a good diet, and they felt better. That just doesn't happen now. People are
yeah.
really sick.
It's coming from all angles, and you don't have to necessarily be spraying the glyphosate on each other for
Exactly.
us to get it in our bodies now.
Yeah, I mean, our food system is so messed up, and I know people are so excited about Maha, and there's great things going on there, but you still have to take responsibility for your own food, your own diet, your own body outside of what the government is going to do, because nobody should be having diets. So just don't eat it. Don't wait for it till it's taken out. You
Mhm,
know, buy the non-GMO stuff because everything that's genetically modified has been sprayed with glyphosate. So don't eat those foods. We
mhm,
have control over those things and we just have to make them a priority.
mhm. Yeah, I get concerned that even things that are not GMO or even things that are organic might have some glyphosate because
Oh,
there's
there's, yeah.
it's like a blurry line as far as like the regulations and if, the wind carries it. There's things like
Oh,
that.
totally. I mean, like I said, we're in a farming community and we do have some organic farms here, but there's always drift. So,
Mhm.
I mean, everything is getting, it rains glyphosate. Everything is affected by it. And people spray it on their yards. I mean, talk about no regulation, Jessica. I watch these yard guys spray or just people on their own, and their farming spraying is very regulated. Like it's so much per acre, etc. There is none of that for the yard. You're just spraying, you're dousing, and so people just don't even think about those things. There's a lot of exposure just around your own home if you're, you know, killing your weeds or your neighbor's killing your weeds. Like we have lots of dandelions in our yard, because we don't spray. My husband's a farmer, and I made him sign a contract like 10 years ago because he would try to spray when I wasn't home, and I would come home and like, I smell it. I smell it. You sprayed and you said you wouldn't spray. He's like, oh, I can't stand the weeds. But I'm like, I've had cancer. We have kids. We have dogs. So I made him sign a contract that he would never spray our yard again.
I was gonna say, why would people even spray their yards? But it's just to get rid of weeds?
It's just to get rid of weeds. And, I don't know why it's such a big deal. Like, I've never understood that. Why do you care if you have weeds? Just mow your yard. It's all green. Who cares? And the
Yeah.
yellow dandelions, I mean, we grew up with them. Nobody sprayed their yards when I was growing up. We all
Mhm.
love the dandelions. Like, I don't know. It's an ecosystem. And if there's weeds there, then you need to change your soil. Just like if there's candida in your body or there's cancer in your body, the soil in your body, the terrain in your body is off. So if you have weeds in your yard, fix your soil.
Yeah, it must be one of those things where someone grew up and their parents did it, and so they learned that's just what you do,
It's
and
just
now
what you do, yeah.
it's passed
And
on. Yeah.
everybody wants that pristine yard. And so the easiest way to do that is to spray it and to not pick your dandelions.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for all the listeners who are tuning in and they're super healthy, they have a clean diet, and they don't think that they're at risk for cancer or any type of diseases because they live super clean and super
Mhm.
healthy, it's important to recognize that you can be the healthiest person you
Yes.
know and still develop these different things. And so everyone needs to detox.
Yes, everyone needs to detox from infant to 120.
Wow, infants. Okay, I mean, I agree with you. I just never even heard it put that way. So how can we, what are the best ways? What did you do in your situation to
Yeah,
start?
so I've done a lot of things over the years, Jessica, to kind of figure out, what works. And we've had different products and stuff now than we did, 30 years ago, or even since 2007 when I had the cancer diagnosis. So I've done a lot of different cellular detox methods. And so you can do a liver cleanse, you could do a gut cleanse, which gets like that low hanging, easy to reach toxins, but it's never going to get your body to release the deeply stored stuff. And so you have to aim for that cellular level detox and be very, very specific with the different binders, the different support, for your liver, your lymph, your kidneys. So you need to be very, very targeted if you want to be serious about detox and get to those deeply stored toxin places.
I would think that a liver cleanse or a gut detox would be the deepest. How do you go deeper than that?
Well, because that's just a one shot thing, like it's a 7 day, right? Or a
Okay.
14-day detox. You can't detox your body in 7 or 14 days. I mean, it takes years to get mercury out of your body. So when I say detox, like you need to know how to cycle on and off a detox. You need to know how to target, your nervous system and your liver and your lymph and all those things. So you need to work with somebody who knows how to do that well because it's going to take you years to get all the toxins out of your body. So you just have to be consistent and then you're constantly exposed to toxins. So I don't want to, talk like you're just never going to get rid of toxins, but you're never going to get rid of toxins. So you need to consistently know how to detox your body. That's not a 7 day cleanse or a 14-day cleanse. You need to go deeper than that, is what I'm trying to say. So we have three levels of detox. We have like the easy to reach stuff, which is in our gut. So you can do binders and flush that stuff out, right? And then we have our tissue level. And then we have our organ level, like our nervous system level. And so we have to remove the easy to reach toxins so the tissue level can go to the easier to reach place and then your body can release stuff that's deeply stored. So it's going to move those three levels all the time. And so you want to be super consistent and that can't be done in 7 days.
Yeah. Are there specific things that you've done? I can share a little bit through my different detox phases, which obviously I still do things now to,
Yeah.
almost a daily basis. But when I was going through a heavy detox phase, I was doing colonics
Oh, yeah.
once a week.
Yeah, if you have a good colonics in your area, like I don't, so I do a lot of coffee enemas. I have to drive 3 hours for a colonics person. So I will periodically, but colonics is amazing, but coffee enemas are amazing. Castor oil packs are some of the easiest, simplest, cheapest things that you can do to consistently facilitate that detox. I do a detox program and I use a product called ZeoCharge, which is a very specific kind of zeolite that's super clean, super targeted, all those kind of things. It's in a powdered form. And so I teach people how to do high dosing and then taper off of it. You support your liver, your lymph, your kidneys. So using herbals to do those things. And then just cleaning up your diet. Make sure everything you put on your skin is clean. Make sure everything, you have a water filter, you have a shower filter. A lot of people forget about their shower. You need a good shower filter if you want to minimize your toxic exposure. And grounding. Grounding is detoxing as well. So go put your toes in the ground. 15 to 30 minutes a day and get out in the sunshine. That is a detox that will stimulate your body to let go of things that are deeply stored.
Yes. Okay. And grounding will detox radiation,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I never thought of grounding as a detox.
Yeah. It supports your body so it can let go of stuff, right?
Right. That makes
Yeah.
total sense. Yeah. One of my favorite things to do that I'll do at least a couple times a week is my infrared sauna blanket. So
Oh,
just to
nice. Yeah.
sweat.
hmm Yeah. Infrared light is great, a few times a week. I like a product called a DNA Vibe, which just really helps your body. It's different than infrared, and you can use it a couple hours a day. It's a really good product.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I have two closing questions for you. But
Okay.
before I ask them, where can the listeners go to learn more about your work and connect with you?
Yeah, so connect with me on Instagram. I love to chat in the DMs. So, let me know that you saw me on this podcast, and then I'd love to chat with you. So I have different programs available. I have the Calm Mom Academy, which I just launched recently. So we're having a lot of fun in there. Just support, all you crazy women out there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, Lori. That will be in the description. You can find the links there. And I really appreciate what you're doing. And you're opening my eyes to new things. And I've been in this health realm for years. So I really love what you're doing. And
Thank you.
my first closing question for you is what is your number one health tip? So whether it is diet, mindset, physical, spiritual, emotional, the one piece of advice that you would like everyone to know.
I'm going to go back to sleep. Get your sleep under control, and that'll help your thinking, your mindset and everything work better.
And then my last question is going to be a more personal question. So you get to choose a number 1 through 100, and that will correlate to the question.
Okay. 77.
What's the role of suffering in life?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. Um, I think it builds perseverance. And then when we learn how to persevere through that suffering, that builds our faith and our character. And then we can make a deeper impact in the world. So I don't think suffering's, we don't want to waste it, right? I don't think God gives us suffering. There's challenges in this life. Like, I mean suffering as far as like health challenges. But there are other challenges in our life that we have to go through, I think, to build our character and our faith, to do everything God's called us to do, to kind of refine us. So
Mhm.
suffering is refining.
I like that. Is there anything that you feel called to share or speak on before we end that maybe we didn't get a chance to cover?
Um, that there's hope. I mean, people think so often, like, I've tried everything, and you haven't tried everything. So if you're still struggling, there's hope out there. Jessica and I are out there trying to build all those bridges for people to just show different ways that, your body can heal, to increase your faith and your mindset and your strength, mentally, physically, and emotionally. So don't give up because God has a big plan for your life and He's going to provide a way out, and just keep moving because movement creates movement. And So I just want to encourage all of you to not stop seeking that healing.
I love that message. And if you're hearing this, you are meant to hear this. So,
Yes. Yes.
yeah. Thank you so much, Lori. This has been a pleasure. And I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your story, your healing story, and all of the work that you do.
Oh, thank you, Jessica. It's a pleasure being on here. And thank you, everyone.